And what if I told you that there is an indicator that can tell you about a trend change in advance? All you have to do is to open a trade for the right amount of time in anticipation of guaranteed price reversal. Are you ready? Today we will talk about how to increase your balance 10 times with Awesome Oscillator. For the purity of the experiment, I will trade only the strategy without using signals from my robot. But no one is limiting you. So if you can follow the link from the description and activate the free period already now, here are the results of the last sessions from the AI advisor. So if you want the same, you know what to do. First, I would like to add an indicator to our chart. To do this, I go to the indicator section and add an indicator called Awesome Oscillator. The indicator is added. We leave the basic settings here. Do not change anything. And now let's deal with the basis for opening the trades here. So we will trade with the indicator Awesome Oscillator due to divergence. What is divergence? It is the difference between what we have on the chart and what we have on the indicator. There are two divergences in total, bullish and bearish. Let's start with the bearish divergence. In case of bearish divergence, we pay attention to the location of the highs on the chart. They look like this, and as we can see, there was an upward movement on the chart. Each of these levels was higher than the previous one. Let's see what is happening on the indicator. On the indicator, we have everything exactly the opposite. As these highs were lower than the previous ones, this is an example of bearish divergence. In this situation, we would open a position on the downside. Now let's look at the bullish divergence. In the bullish divergence, we are already paying attention to the location of the lows. Thus, if we see that we have a downward movement and each of the lows is lower than the previous one, then on the indicator we have an upward movement. On the contrary, and each of these lows is higher than the previous ones. This is a good example of bullish divergence. And in this situation, we would open a position and on the upside. And as you can see, this has worked out well on the history. I would also like to say that these signals work very well over a long distance. Thus, if you saw a divergence that occurred just 5 minutes ago, it will still be considered as, a valid signal, However, do not forget that we will also pay attention to the confirming factors, which I will tell you about directly during the trading session. Well, we are just getting to it. I'm getting ready to open a trade for you on the strategy, but now we get a signal from the robot. Let's quickly find this currency pair and place a trade. Don't forget about the time of 5 minutes. We open the trade as fast as possible. Wow, friends, this is incredible. The link is in the description. So I open the first position. Let's see what we see on the chart. So looking at the chart, the first thing I see is that we had a downward movement from this low. At the same time, looking at the indicator, we did not have a downward movement. It means that on the indicator. On the contrary, we even had a slight increase, during which each of the lows was higher than the previous one. This is an example of bullish divergence, and it tells us that the price is rising. Well, and also we should not forget about one confirming factor. It is that when the price approaches this level, we immediately have some resistance level from the buyer side. We have a confident upward movement. The trade closes in plus, and the signal has worked perfectly. So I see a good example of bearish divergence. In this situation, I will open a position at $94, and my position is open. Let's look at the chart. If we can see, we can mark this level right here. From the high, we had an upside move where each of our near-term highs was higher than the previous high. And if we look at the indicator on the contrary, we can see a downward movement during which each of the levels was lower than the previous one. This is a clear example of bearish divergence, and it tells us that the price is going down. So, in case this trade closes on the plus side, my net profit will be 87%, and I will think that it will be very, very good. Great result. My balance is already $175 for 2 trades. I was able to increase my deposit more than 3 times. And so let's move on. So I found an interesting situation. I opened a trade on the downside for 1 minute. In this situation, we have a bearish divergence. If we can look at the chart, we can see that we had an upward movement from this high. During this, each of these levels was higher than the previous one. And if we look at the indicator, we can see that we had a downward movement from this high, during which each of these highs was lower than the previous one. This tells us about the bearish divergence, and that's a downward movement, is likely to occur here. Moreover, I believe that because of this divergence, this upside move which occurred after the formation of this high is considered irrelevant, and it is not based on anything. So the downward movement happened. My balance is already $314. The situation has worked itself out. Let's move on. So I see the formation of a sudden bearish divergence. I immediately open a position on the downside, and look what we see here. In this situation, we have a sudden upward movement from this maximum. Within this movement, each of these levels was higher than the previous one. And if we look at the indicator, we can see that there was no movement at all from this level, except a slight decrease. This is also an example of a bearish divergence, which points us to the price decline. And as a confirming factor, we have a large number of support levels at the bottom, with which the price will most likely aim for. A confident downward movement is taking place. The situation has worked itself out, and my balance is $563. So let's take stock. As you can see, thanks to this strategy, in just 4 trades, I was able to increase my deposit of $50 by more than 10 times. I think this is an amazing result. Just imagine what would happen if you were trading with me right now. By the way, I would like to take this opportunity to invite you to join my Telegram channel once again, because according to Naila's tips and strategies, I published their signals with the help of which absolutely every one of you will be able to start earning on trading without wasting time on trading and analyzing charts. Well, this concludes this video. Thank you all very much for watching, and bye bye.